Hello, everybody. Welcome to MJ Comix. I'm your host, James Mack, and tonight's episode, I want to introduce everybody to Let's Talk, Michael from Wahoo Comics. Michael, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Yeah, excited to be here. Really appreciate you asking me.
No, it's okay. I've been a big fan of yours over the last few months with your parody videos that you've been doing of members of the comic community. I think they're genuinely some of the most funniest content in our space going at the moment. So my hat's off to you, buddy.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. That's very kind.
That's okay. But everybody, thank you for joining us this evening. We're going to delve into a bit more of Michael's thoughts on the comic book community, the comic book market, and collecting in general. So I appreciate everybody for sticking with us this evening. But Michael, if we just get straight into it, and I just ask the most basic questions going known to man, um, who is Wahoo Comics? Who is Michael?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with my channel name and how I got that. So
Yeah.
I both graduated and still work at the University of Virginia,
Oh, okay.
and kind of their unofficial mascot is the Wahoos. And so the University of Virginia has been a big part of my life for a long time. And while I was there, I majored in both biology and religious studies. And so I've always been interested in science and faith and the intersection between those. And while my wife was there at UVA, it was after me, but I met her while she was a student and I was working there.
Yeah.
Um, that's been a big part of our lives. And I mentioned to you right before the stream, we now have 7 beautiful children.
It's
And so, of
incredible.
course, yeah, family is a huge part of our life. And those are some of the things that are most important to me.
That's great. That's great. And in terms of then Wahoo, in terms of Virginia,
Yeah.
there's what's the comic book scene like out there? Is it big or?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Virginia is a really unique state in a lot of ways where it's almost culturally like 2 different states.
Mhm.
So the southern part of Virginia, which is where I grew up, is very much what you think of when you think of the South. I don't know
Yeah.
how much those things, yeah, what perception you have as those somebody, not from the US,
Yeah.
but it's Southern culture. And I think like comics aren't a huge deal there. There's
Yeah.
certainly shops that have kind of come and gone. But growing up, there was no big scene. When I go back and visit my family, there's a shop that will come into existence for like a few months and then it's gone. But once you get to Charlottesville, which is where UVA is at, it's basically like right in the middle of the state. And this is kind of the beginning of Virginia becoming much more like the New England area, the North.
Yeah.
Uh, and DC is right above us, and so we've all kind of that part's kind of grown out of DC and the metropolitan area that it is. And so once you get starting here and further north, then I think it's as big as it is in any other kind of metropolitan area.
Yeah. And so you work at the university, you said?
Yeah, so I don't work for the university, but it's I haven't talked a lot about this on my
Oh, okay.
channel. I'm
That's all right.
curious. I've thought about it, and I kind of alluded to it a little bit in a recent video. But I'm
Yeah.
actually a pastor is my full-time
Yes.
occupation, and
Yeah.
so I do collegiate ministry. And so college students who are looking for a church, I connect with them and do things like that. So
Oh, that's
I
nice.
am very much a part of the university community without being employed by them.
Oh, okay, cool. That's yeah, I think that was in one of your most recent videos about the local comic shops, was it about LCSs?
Yeah. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
comparing the LCS to kind of like the church of the comic community.
Yeah, yeah, and it's what I think I have to comment on that video about how it's kind of like a sanctuary.
Yeah.
I won't go. Gemma will confirm this, but I hate going shopping. I literally
Mhm.
hate. I hate going food shopping. Like I can't. I think it's that your mom dragging you along. Like I hated it. Um, but yeah, like a comic shop, I can go in there and I can easily spend hours in there just talking to the locals about comics and just going flipping through bins and everything. So I totally agree. I think it is like a, for us comic book collectors, it is a bit of a like a safe space for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if we'll just do a quick hello to people in the chat, and if you've got any questions for Michael, please put them in the chat, and I'll save them for the appropriate time in the during the conversation, if that's all right. But we've got Shauna in the house. Thank you so much for joining us, Shauna. Yo, what's good, MJ and Wahoo peeps? Thank you for joining us this evening, stroke afternoon. We've got my darling wife, Gemma. Mac, thank you for joining us. Always doing the, what do you call it? The moderating. That's the word, isn't it? And we've got 22 comics. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got Just Your Average Geeks as well. Thank you so much for joining us as well. Shauna has said that Wahoo is good comic collector and good dude. He is in my top 10 in comic YouTube, and so are you, MJ. Thank you so much, Shauna. That's for those nice comments. 22 Comics has said that because 7 kids is a huge family. Lol, definitely. We've got JSS Brooklyn in the house. Thank you so much for coming in, buddy. Really appreciate it. If you've got any questions, please put them in the chat, JSS. Any other questions there? Chat, press the like button. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. But so what made you start a YouTube channel, Michael?
Yeah, I think like a lot of people, it started during the pandemic. And so I was just watching YouTube videos for a long time, and I've read comics and been a collector for a while. And so I don't know what I looked up, but all of a sudden the algorithm started feeding me some YouTube channels. And I remember one of the early ones that I started watching kind of regularly was Very Gary.
Oh
And so he would, of course, his shtick was kind of buying comic collections and then showing off what he got. And I realized that, wow, this YouTube channel must be a big part of him being able to do that, to kind of advertise and help people find him. And so my channel hasn't fulfilled its purpose, but my original purpose was to put out some content and hope people from Central Virginia, this area, would see it. And they're like, hey, well, I have a collection to sell. Let me hit up this guy. And then I would be like a little, Very Gary going out. And that was my original intention. I don't really have that dream anymore with it, but that's how it got started.
So it didn't, I take that, it didn't take off in that sense with people coming to approach you with collections.
Yeah, not in that sense. I do buy and sell comics some, and it's helped in the sense like most of the people I found are different posts that they put on online forums and things like that. And so I'll send them some videos because I think people, if they see the person on the other side of the emails, like it helps them feel better. And they see that, oh, I actually do love these comics. And so a lot of people are selling, of course, are people who maybe they inherited a collection from someone. And so they don't know much about comics themselves, but they still want to send them to someone who at least cares about them some. And so I think the videos have helped, people feel that sense of comfort. And so I've been able to still use it to do some buying and selling, but not what I had originally hoped.
Yeah, because your channel, for me, I kind of find it like it's obviously funny, it's informative. You go from like unboxing to hauls to market advice, and your parody videos. So you've currently got is it 1,000 subscribers? Just over 1,100, is
a little
it?
bit over
Well, I say
1,000.
1,150. You got 195 videos, and you've been. What year? Do you remember what year you started?
I just finished 4 years, so I guess
Oh,
that'd been
okay, 2021.
2021, like in March of that year. Yep.
How are you finding your 4th year in YouTube? How are you finding it?
Yeah, man, YouTube is such an interesting space, and I feel like I would guess a lot of us creators feel this way. Like I have a real love-hate relationship with YouTube.
Yeah.
Like there's so much that I love about it and enjoy about it. I really enjoy it allowing me a space to be creative. I try to do that obviously in my parody videos, but in other ways, just try to think of creative ways. And I really enjoy talking about ideas. And so a lot of my videos these days, like comics are an excuse to talk about some kind of idea versus just talking about the comics themselves. The one about comic shops is about like how do we think about architecture, or how do we think about finances a lot.
Yeah.
But the hard thing is, again, having a big family that I really like. I'm the type of person who always wants to go all in with things. I'm very
Yeah.
competitive. I want to do well. I want to be successful. And to get to the next level, there does, I think, have to be a sense of going more all in. And I've got the ideas up here that I think at least will help me some.
Yeah.
But it's just finding the time, to do things and knowing that, well, every hour I spend doing this is an hour away from my family. And and some of that is good because I think, I certainly need hobbies. I was really encouraged. My wife a couple of months ago, when I was in kind of my like, maybe I should just quit. She talked about how she thought this was good for me and she wanted me to do it.
Yeah, because
And so
presumably it's
that,
like it's like an outlet of, for
yes,
you.
yeah, but it's still, I mean, we all, yeah, I really appreciate a lot of things you've talked about with Mighty on your live streams with him.
Yeah.
Like he admits, not, I guess not everybody necessarily feels this way, but I believe most of us do. Yeah, I do care about the views.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make videos just for the views, but I do care about them.
Yeah.
And so, when you have a video that like doesn't hit the way you were hoping it would hit, obviously it's just like, well, let
Yeah.
me just, be done with all this.
Yeah. Do you find that that's probably what's the most challenging part of running a YouTube channel, or do you feel like it's
Yeah.
maybe like like trying to come up with new ideas, or what content to put out, or I mean, I sometimes I kind of like just don't feel motivated sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
I,
Yeah. I mean, I'm tired.
yeah.
I've got a work, job, family, all that kind of stuff. So, because I have to film, usually I film at like 11 o'clock at night
Yeah.
because,
Me-
again, with so many
Yep.
kids, it's just too loud to film anything. I
And
think I
Michael.
told you I'm actually in my bathroom right now. You might not be
Yeah.
able to tell, but it's just, oh, there's Mighty. I see him. Yeah. And like it's hard to find a time. And by the time I can find a time, it's, I don't always feel like it. And
Yeah.
so that's challenging. I personally don't have any challenges to finding new ideas, and I have a lot of new ideas. But I've been frustrated, and because I think you and Mighty might have talked about this too. About
Yeah.
like, I think he mentioned wanting to do new things. Like I feel like I try to do new things, and maybe I just am not talented. I have to look in the mirror and acknowledge part of the problem is me, but also the algorithm doesn't
Yeah.
reward new things in my experience. And so I really want to do, I'm really energized by the idea of doing things that no one else is doing. So I
Yeah.
don't find, for me personally, a lot of interest in like just doing haul videos because there's plenty of haul videos on
Oh
YouTube.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I
No.
don't need to do, so I want to do these new things. But then like when you do those new things and the algorithm doesn't seem to respond to that, then that's obviously a demotivator.
Yeah. It's I'm exactly in the same boat as you. I have to film my stuff once the kids have gone to bed. And then, I don't finish editing and stuff like that and uploading until like gone midnight. And then I'm up at
Yeah.
5 o'clock in the morning for work. And I'm like, yeah, it's just too draining. I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
But so how do you stay inspired to, to keep doing this? You had that
Yeah.
conversation with your wife. What
Sure.
keeps you going?
So part of it is, the encouragement from my wife was very helpful. Part of it is when people comment on your video, even when it doesn't get as many views as I hope, I do have people I feel that certainly enjoy my videos,
Yeah.
and I really feel energized by that. And it might just be a handful that watch all of my videos, but like I feel a sense of loyalty to them, and wanting to connect with them, and it's a
Yeah,
way
yeah.
to connect. And so yeah, that keeps me energized. And like I said, more and more, I try to find something that I'm already thinking about and how to connect comics to it. Again, just going back to the recent example of how our church just recently bought a building, like that was on my mind. And then starting to think, well, how do comic shop buildings kind of tie into some of these bigger questions that I'm thinking about? Or I'm reading a book right now called The Psychology of Money. And so I'm going to put out a video on some of the financial aspects of comic collecting. And so I find a lot of inspiration in that. And again, those are the things that I get really excited about, like using comics to talk about ideas
Yeah.
versus simply the comics themselves.
Yeah, because it's, you can put out like I bought these comics, I picked up these, but like you say, they're a dime a dozen on YouTube.
Right.
That's mostly what people are putting out. So to come up with like an original or a unique video that you can put out like that stands out from above the parapet, that'd be great. But yeah, if we've got a few questions in the chat, I'll try and
Mm-hmm.
have a look at them. But we've had Darth Lopez join us. Thank you so much, Darth, for joining us. You a big fan of his current unbagged and no, is it unbagged and unfiltered or something?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been great. I love Darth. Darth's one of the people that I've connected to most on YouTube. And I think you mentioned we'll probably get into this later about just thoughts on the comic community.
Yeah.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of people that I've connected with off of YouTube, but he's probably one of the ones that are the most. And so I really appreciate it. And obviously, they've been super entertaining. Yeah, people have been pretty dramatic on them, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's it can't miss YouTube in my opinion.
I think it was it last week's episode where I think that was like the most dramatic, like like the one that just went off the rail a bit. It kind of reminds me of it's almost like with the whole, it's an interview at the beginning, but then it opens up and it's just like it's a bit Jerry Springer esque, where they're like,
Yeah,
well, you've been talking about this person. Well, here they are. They're here. They're here. They're all the way from and you just like, I was showing Gemma it. I was like, this is crazy, absolutely crazy.
yeah, it was wild, and I appreciate. Yeah, obviously he drops the link for anyone to come on. I think usually,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and
yeah.
then the chat. What was crazy about the last episode was most of the most outrageous stuff was just being said in the chat,
In the
and
chat,
I
yeah, yeah.
think people were being anonymous, and so they didn't actually come onto the stream. But the chat was crazy, and so it's been wild to see. And I grew up watching Jerry Springer,
Yeah,
again
yeah.
from the
Most of us
South. I
did,
mean,
yeah.
that's my people. Every time I watch Jerry Springer, that's like the
Is
people
that
I
where
grew
they
up with.
is that where they pulled
Yeah,
all the unlucky people from to come and
that's where they did. There's episodes with people from my hometown. So yeah,
oh,
like I am drawn to watching the drama
oh wow. But Darth is doing incredibly well. Well done,
for sure.
Darth. Um, we've got Brian McClay from Beyond Wednesdays. Thank you so much for joining us, Brian. Really appreciate it. I'm a huge fan of Brian's content. Do you watch Beyond Wednesdays?
I do. Usually Saturday nights, I at least catch the drama segment,
Yeah,
because I'm just interested to hear what they're going to have to say. And then I watch some of the others. Of course, he puts out, I think, quite a bit of content. And this,
yeah, yeah.
again, one of the hard things about having such a large family.
Yeah, you don't get
Like,
the time to get to
yeah,
watch.
I can't just watch hours and hours. I would
Yeah.
like to, but I make sure to at least catch the drama segment.
And we've got Lawrence from Mighty Comics and Collectibles. Lawrence, thank you so much for joining us. We've been speaking very heavily about you so far, but I appreciate you coming in. Uh, in fact, actually, I was talking backstage with Michael about you, Mighty. So I think it would be a really cool idea that when Mighty does his next comic community news segment, he could do like the news part of it, and when he cuts to the footage, it could be Michael acting it out. I think that'd be a good idea. I think it'd be really
Yeah,
funny.
I like that.
Um, so contact each other and make it happen. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us as well. We have Sammy Jane. Really appreciate it for joining us this evening as well. Let's see if anyone else new has joined just to say hello. Right, okay. We've got some questions. I'll go ahead and just ask while we're on this section, if
Sure.
that's all right.
Yep.
So JSS Brooklyn said, "How many children did you have during the pandemic? And did YouTube help you from going going crazy or not going crazy? I'm guessing."
Yeah, going crazy. Yeah, did that get me away from the kids? I think it's what he's saying. Give me a chance to get a break.
Oh,
So actually, my last kid was born like a month before the pandemic started. He was born, and then like everything shut down. And yeah, I know everybody thinks 7's crazy. So that was almost 5 years ago. We would welcome another child, but I think
wow.
our bodies are just older. Like we hope we have another one, but I just don't know if that's in the cards for us. We
Okay.
obviously really love children. So, but yeah, when you have that many kids, like people always think, well, that's insane, right?
Yeah.
But once you, I think, get past 2, it's just busy. It doesn't matter. Throwing another one in, it doesn't really
Yeah, it doesn't really
change
change
that much.
anything.
And
Because I
it's
suppose
actually
they
gotten
get
easier because the older kids now, I mean, it's like a second set of, my oldest is 18-year-old son and a 16-year-old daughter. And really, they're, obviously no kid's perfect, but they're good kids. And so, it's like another mom and dad in the house. And now for the first time over the last couple of years, Katie and I, my wife, Katie, we can actually just go out and leave all the kids at home, because the
yeah,
older kids are
can look after them.
helpful.
That's
So
I was gonna say that probably helps, with the age gaps, the older ones can start helping out a
definitely.
bit more. That's good.
Yeah.
Um, we've got 22 Comics has asked, has the recent
Mm.
social climate made you hesitant to include your faith on the channel?
Yeah, it has. I was just talking to my wife even before this interview,
Yeah,
like how much do I even want to bring this up? But it is obviously such a really important part of
part of your
my
life. Yeah,
life, and I don't want to be like preachy or whatever. But of
yeah,
course, it's integral to who I am,
yeah,
and so I'm trying to think of ways to not be like preachy, but where because it's really also like I said, it's about ideas, really, like right. I mean, it's more than that, but it's a lot about ideas, and of course, comics explore a lot of ethics, and so I've thought about just trying to talk about this ethical thing. Like I was just reading one of the more recent Spider-Man issues the other day because I read mostly on Marvel Unlimited
yeah,
digitally, and so it's like a few months behind. So I'm just reading the 8 Ways to Die storyline, and so I don't know if you've seen it. I don't want to spoil too much, but basically, Spider-Man saves everybody's life. Then he appears in the future and still sees that obviously, eventually, they're still going to die.
yeah,
And so then he takes on this very nihilistic mindset. Well, nothing matters then, right? Like all I'm doing is delaying the inevitable. Who
yeah,
cares? And so I think that's obviously just a lot of interesting ethical questions that obviously tie in to faith and religion
yeah, yeah,
about does anything in this life matter? We're all just going to die someday. And so I would like to figure out how to do that more, again, without turning people off and away.
yeah,
And, even I've been hesitant even up until recently, kind of saying anything about it. Because when people, I just have experience not on YouTube, when people hear you're a pastor, like all of a sudden, all these thoughts about what I am, you know, come
yeah,
into their mind. And there's a lot of judgments, that are made. And then it can kind of close the door to actually have an open discussion, I think.
yeah, yeah.
And so, I don't. So, this is a long answer to
That's
22's
okay. It's okay.
question, but it's
Great.
something I've really been thinking about. And so, yes, I have been hesitant, but I do want to find, appropriate ways that people enjoy that aren't preached to talk about those things.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you can either lean fully into it and become, even change the channel name and become like the comic book pastor or something. Do you know what I mean? Or the
Right?
comic
Yeah.
pastor.
Yeah.
Um, you know, um, or it's just something that you gradually. It's totally up to you, Michael.
Yeah.
I, I am not I'm not a religious person, but I would never ever put somebody down for their faith or anything like that. That's not the way I've been brought up. Um, but it wouldn't stop me from watching, because
I appreciate that.
you'd still do your videos that I enjoy anyway. So
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah,
that's
those are
okay.
the kind of things that are good to hear. So I'm kind of like testing the waters with some, like that
Yeah, yeah,
recent one, about like the church building, all that. How did people respond to that? And again, I mean, I even mentioned there, I have thought about another I didn't mention this when you asked why I started this channel.
yeah.
Another reason is kind of a test run to maybe starting a completely separate
Separate.
channel that just deals with theology and ethics and its interaction with the real world.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
maybe that happens one day. But if I were
Sounds
going to blow it, I'd rather have blown it on comic books before I blew it on like more important topics. I don't want to just start a YouTube channel talking about
yeah.
issues that are more substantial, and then send someone into some kind of spiritual crisis.
Right. We've got Shauna Rain has asked, "What is your favorite Alien comics, Wahoo?" And and I like Predator. The lore is crazy in new Battlelands movie. They have a Doom monster skull in back of his trophy room in the trailer. You a big fan of Alien?
Yeah, I've seen more of the movie franchise, the movies, than I have the comics. I read a little bit of the first Alien series that Marvel put out, and I would like to read more. But in terms of Alien versus Predator, I think I've enjoyed the Predator in general more,
Yeah.
because he obviously seems to be more calculated thinking being, and
Yeah, yeah.
aliens
No
are more
problem.
just a force of nature.
Yeah.
And so I find that a little more interesting. I would like to read. I need to read more. Marvel's obviously put out a number of good storylines recently with
Yeah.
those, but my reading of them is limited.
Okay. That's um, and then we've got JSS Booking has asked a question, but I'll save that for the next segment. But he's also said, how do you cultivate the comic book community in Virginia, a rural area? Is it more personal relationships or internet?
Yeah. So I mentioned, one of the reasons I wanted to start this YouTube channel was in the hope that people from Central Virginia would see this, and it would, something make it, and there'd be a more in person. But so far, that really hasn't happened. It has been more on the internet for me. There is a really good LCS here in Charlottesville that's very active and awesome. It's another thing where, again, just the time. It's hard for me just to get out to the LCS,
Yeah.
and just say, hey, like, see you later, Katie and kids. I'm gone for a few hours. So like,
Yeah, yeah.
my hobby is mostly limited to once Katie and the kids are in bed, then I'm up for a couple hours. And obviously, no comic shops open at 11 o'clock. So those in-person interactions have been difficult. And so it mostly has been this online space, which has been surprising. Like I mentioned, my intention of starting a YouTube channel was more just to try to start a business.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm keeping it going is because I have actually made some connections here online that I value. And so that's why I make content now. And at least for foreseeable future, we'll keep doing that.
That's great. Great answer. Um, so, what would you say has been your most rewarding aspect of creating content?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I would say certainly when people, because like I said, I like to talk about ideas. When somebody leaves a thoughtful comment where it reveals that I've made them think about something, whether or not they agree with me. Like, I'm not looking for everybody to agree with me,
Hmm.
but at least to like think about some aspect of their life, whether it's how they handle the money or how we think about architecture, whatever it might be. Like, that really energizes me.
Yeah.
And then like I mentioned, it's been a real creative outlet for me, especially the parody videos. Like, I've
Yeah.
really had to think, comedy's hard, right? Like, you can really put up some bad comedy very easily.
Well, we
And
learned.
so
I think we
just the
learned that
thought
last year, didn't we?
process, yeah, right. Just the thinking through. I really enjoy that and putting it together. And I've gotten more into, even though I don't, again, time is just, I enjoy editing videos and the creativity that involves as well. Just
Yeah.
again, there's just limited amount of time. I wish I could do more.
Yeah. Just in terms of your last thing, Brian from Beyond Wednesdays has said respect for that Wahoo, and he's also said that
Thanks, man.
his his YouTube feed is nothing but religious docs and theological content, and he's not even religious, but he loves the history. So
That's really cool. Yeah, to hear and to know and
right,
to, yeah, especially because like I said, I don't want to just like obviously some people that are watching my channel, I'm sure are religious, and what I'm concerned about is like, yeah, non-religious people just being totally alienated by it. And so it's
yeah,
very cool to hear you say, you know, James Mack and now Brian saying that, yeah, even though you may not be religious, you can still appreciate a lot about
yeah, of
religion.
course, yeah.
Means a lot.
It's a big part of the history of the human race. So
Yeah, for sure.
um, we've got Mutant Academy Gaming. Thank you so much for joining us, Daniel. Really appreciate it. A friend of mine wrote a paper called Superman in a Post 9/11 World that talks about US symbolism and religion and what Kal-El and comics represented in the wider culture. It's online somewhere. That sounds very interesting.
That's awesome. That's the kind of stuff that I'm interested in, maybe like doing things like that on my
Yeah, yeah.
channel, more talking about some of the, again, moral, religious elements, symbols that come out in comic
Well,
books.
it's especially with like the Superman character. It's been touched on
Yeah.
so many times before. If somebody like that existed in the world, they would be revered, or they would be worshipped essentially.
Yep.
So that's a great comment. So the next question that I've got is, and JSS Brooklyn has been in his usual self, and he's asked pretty much these questions already in the chat. But what do you collect? So do you collect any particular comics, any runs, any characters, or is he key comics, or are you raw or graded? What is it?
Yeah. So the difference obviously between collecting and reading. So
Yeah,
as I mentioned, I read a lot digitally, just from a financial perspective. I can just read. Yeah, I mean, I prefer to hold a paper book in my hand and read it,
yeah,
but I can just read so much more cheaply, by reading online and different platforms. But if we're talking about actually collecting, buying books, it's certainly Copper Age and earlier, things from my childhood and earlier, things that I feel have a better chance at least to get my money back at some point,
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah,
at least, yeah, that's a whole nother discussion, but at least have a better chance
yeah,
of recouping some of it at some point. And if I'm going to spend any actual substantial money, it's going to be like a first appearance of a key character.
yeah. Of course, yeah,
Uh, I would say something I love. Certainly, people love this, but I love more than probably the average collector is the first cover appearance of characters.
yeah,
Like those are more. I enjoy that more than just the first appearance because once I've read the book, I'm probably, especially again when you're talking about vintage books, I'm not leafing through those. I'm trying to protect and preserve them.
yeah,
And so then after that point, it's really just the cover that I look at. And so I really enjoyed the cover art. And it's cool to be able, like put this CGC, whatever, on display and to see the character, like it,
yeah.
issue first appearance. There's obviously a lot of first appearance characters. You would never know it just looking at it in its case that it's even connected to
Oh yeah,
whatever
the
character
comic.
it
Yeah,
might
yeah,
be.
yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And so I
We've
still
got
enjoy first appearances, but the first cover appearance I really
really go for
especially
you.
like. Yeah. And I like
Um,
villains. I really enjoy villains because I think they're more morally complex. Two reasons. One, I think the more interesting, more
yep.
complex. And then secondly, they're usually more affordable, also.
Yeah, of course,
So
yeah.
that's a lot too.
I always say to my wife, Gemma, I said like, I think I said this maybe the other week with Gem Mint, but uh, I always, if I was an actor, I think I would prefer to play like the villain character because I just think it's
Yeah.
more, like you say, it's more interesting. You have a lot more fun. Um, probably playing them, because with the sometimes with the good guy, it's just straight laced and it's down the
Right.
middle, and there's no, that's why it's always. I quite enjoy anti-heroes, to be fair.
Yeah.
They're quite interesting characters. Um, but we got Razor Comics in the house. Thank you so much for joining us, Razor. Really appreciate it. Just stopping by to What It Do Wahoo. Love this guy. Very smart, funny, and talented. You got another fan there. Um, but yeah. So in terms of have you got a particular favorite comic book at all, or like
Yeah.
or run? Yeah,
Yeah. So I brought a couple. I'll show you, like, to read, or like my favorite comic book in my collection.
but both.
Or either.
You can answer
Well, I'll
both.
tell you my favorite comic book in my collection. So for years, since I was a kid, I've read comics. It was only in the pandemic where I would say, like, I started buying vintage comics, like started thinking somewhat of their financial
Yeah.
worth and caring about that. Cause I finally had, I don't know what you guys got in England. In the US, we got a pretty nice stimulus checks. And again, with 7 kids, I was getting a lot of money each month. And so
Oh
all of a
wow.
sudden I had this extra money to spend on comic books, and obviously didn't blow it all, but I was
Yeah.
getting, I think it was like, for a year, and I didn't ask for it, but it's like $2,000 a month.
Wow.
It was wild. And
So
so of course,
in terms of those stimulus checks, then, so
yeah,
was that on top of money that were you able to work, or
just
like?
my own personal income, yeah, was
Oh yeah.
unchanged. Yeah, I was still able to do my pastoral work and all
Oh
that
wow.
stuff. So, but then, all of a sudden, you had this extra money coming in. Yeah,
Yeah.
we did a couple things with our home. Yeah, it was very helpful. But I had a little bit of money that I was able to say, all right, well, if I spend a couple $100 on a comic and it goes to nothing, then yeah, this is basically free money,
Yeah. Free money. Yeah.
anyway. So I got into that. And then after about a year, my father-in-law told me that he had a bunch of comics just sitting in his basement and I could just have them all. And he brought me a couple, and they were all like from the Bronze Age. And he brought them to my home. Yeah, and then I was like, holy cow, when I go visit them, there might be some really valuable books in here. And
Yeah.
so I went there. It's like these boxes of books, totally unbagged, obviously unboarded. And the very top box was the Hulk run. And so I'm going through 170, 171, 172.
Anyway.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, please God, be. And then
Oh,
I got to
nice.
this one, 181, and it looks so much better than the grade. Yeah, it got really hammered on the box again because it's just in the basement, in the back. Because in the basement, it just got all this foxing that I think really,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
hammered the grade. But yeah, it was one of the most fun moments of my life. Yeah, and my heart was racing, obviously, as I was digging through that box, realizing, oh, is 181 going to be there? And Wolverine is my favorite. At least
Character.
him and Doctor Doom kind of go back and forth between who's my
Yeah.
favorite character, but Wolverine is certainly one of them. And so, and for all of you sticklers, 180 was also in the box. So I actually
That's good.
I have both. So whatever the first appearance is, but as I mentioned, I like the cover appearances for me. So this is why this one is the one
Wow.
that I like out of both of them. The other one's actually like a 7.0 or 7.5, so it got better. But this was there, and then I got to the other box. It's amazing that this was there because all the other big hits from the Bronze Age, like his Amazing Spider-Man run, started with issue 130. So
So you missed out on 129.
yes, and then I got to the Werewolf by Night, starting issue 10. He had every issue. I was like, oh,
Missed
we're gonna
out
get
32.
Moon Knight. He had 31 and then 2 copies of 33.
Oh,
And
second appearance.
somehow the newsstand that he bought them off just didn't have 32 that month. I don't know. But if I could only pick one book during that whole the whole 70s, whole Bronze Age, this would be the one. And so yeah,
It
it was just
seems
an
to
incredible
be
moment.
it seems to be like the major Bronze Age key, to be fair.
Yeah, right. And so that is my favorite book in my collection. Obviously, because I love Wolverine. but yeah, just the story with my father-in-law. So it's one that I'll pass down, to, it's going to be funny, like which kids get what comics.
Which
Yeah.
gonna get it?
Also, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Funny
it's
enough,
very, very special to me.
the Hulk 181 is my biggest ever comic book purchase. I bought it.
Oh, cool.
I can't remember how many. It was during the pandemic. Might have been when we were coming out of it, maybe. I can't remember, but I laid a lot of money on it for.
Yeah. Was that kind of the height of the boom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when I bought it,
did y'all get stimulus payments there?
yeah, I paid. Yeah, I paid in. I can't remember if I paid in installments. Actually, I can't remember. But we didn't get we got we basically got to stay home from work and just get paid. We didn't have to go to work.
Oh, gotcha.
But like it was only for a few months. Like it wasn't like
Sure.
like a real long time. But it just meant that I mean, you couldn't go out anywhere. You couldn't go on holiday. You weren't really going out anywhere to spend money. So it was one of those things. You just you had a bit of extra income, but nothing to like nothing like what you guys had. But
sure.
But mine was a 4.0, and when I bought it at the
Nice.
time, I kept checking the value, and it was going up and up and up, and then it got to a certain point where it just started coming down, 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 down. And now I don't even. I'm too scared to look at it now. It's just in the collection. I'm not bothered. The only thing I'm upset about is how much I paid for it. That's the only, I was never bought it to sell it,
Right.
But yeah.
And that's what I think that's when it comes to comic. I mean, obviously I think if you're buying comics as an investment, you have to understand there's a lot of risk, and we shouldn't buy anything that we're not willing for it to go to zero. You've got to think it could go to zero. In our lifetime. In my opinion, that's how our mindset should be. And obviously, I don't think it will happen like that. But collectibles is a really, really funny space, and who knows if what things are going to look like 20 years from now.
Exactly. We do not know, do we? We've had some great questions in the chat. Shauna said, I can't believe no one is talking about Rob Liefeld on YouTube. MJ and Wahoo, we need that live interview, fellas. It would be epic for your YouTube comics in general. Yeah, I'd love to speak to Rob Liefeld. Would absolutely love to. I'm trying
to. Have you reached out to anybody in the industry? Kind of like Brian. Yeah, he obviously has people that work in the industry. Have you tried to get that?
I think if anyone's going to get Rob Liefeld, it will be Brian, because Brian seems to be, really, really good at getting those guests in at the moment. But I have tried to make that jump, but I'm scared, man. Like it's a different, like research and just a YouTube, personality or content creator is a bit different to like some of these creators been around for 30 years and stuff like that, and you've got it's a lot more in depth. So I'm a bit scared about it, but it is something that I definitely want to do. I would love to do it. 22 Comics says, have you introduced your kids to comics? Are any of them into them?
Yeah, so very small amount into comics. Like on Free Comic Book Day, we've gone and gotten some things there. They've really enjoyed the ones that they have. As I mentioned, I read mostly digitally now, so it's not like I'm buying the comics I'm buying. I don't want them to be going through like a Hulk 181. Obviously I want my kids to be leaping through those, right?
Exactly.
They certainly. We've been watching through the Marvel movies together. They watch some of the cartoons, and so they're interested in superheroes. But the actual comics themselves, not a ton of involvement for them. I hope that changes as they get older. I mentioned you James Mack, that one of the tough things too, unless I go out and buy a lot of kid-oriented comics, which again, there's just a cost, for that I mentioned. A lot of the storylines can be pretty mature, and just the regular comics, and so it's also hard to know, well, what are my kids ready for right now? That
Yeah, I totally agree. It's
yeah, and
exactly.
it's hard. It's hard to know what the answer to that is.
Yeah, yeah. And it's almost like you got to pre-read the whole thing just in case there's something in there. Um, Great question. And then to follow on from that, where you're talking about that you read mostly digital comics, great, genuine question. As I don't know, are all comics free to read when online? So, no, you mentioned you have the Marvel Unlimited,
Yeah.
which is a paid
Yeah.
for.
So Marvel and DC both have pay for apps, and it's something like $60 a year for Marvel, which is the one that I'm subscribed to. But you have access to pretty much everything Marvel's put out. They're still putting some of their older issues on the app, but I mean, it seems like it's infinite. Yeah, and all the
Yeah,
major ones are already on there. And then they put new comics up 3 months after they've been published. So yeah, if you're someone who like, oh, I've got to read it the day it comes out, then you have to buy in person or paper. But I don't have that rush for them. So I mean, $60 a year to read everything is certainly a lot more affordable than, because I probably read 5 comics a week on Marvel Unlimited. So
yeah,
that's like 20. Yeah, within a month I've paid for it. And then at least here, I don't know how. Yeah, every state would be different or locality. I don't know if in England if you guys have these things, but our libraries have digital where you can check out comics digitally. So like all the new DC trades, they and a lot of the independent trades, they come out digitally through my library, and so I
oh
read
wow,
DC and independents just through the library. I read more Marvel, so the library has there's a limited number of things you can check out each month.
yeah,
That's why I pay for the Marvel ones. Plus, I want to read the older issues of Marvel.
yeah, yeah.
The newer issues are all that comes out of the library. Yeah, 22
Okay,
says Hoopla. I see that real quick. Yeah, so I have Hoopla, and so that's where I read all my digital comics that outside of Marvel.
brilliant. Um, and then we've got. Have you heard of this person here? YouTube comic people. Have you heard of them?
Yeah. He commented on one of my videos and did a little short on it. Yeah. So do I feel the content starts? Yeah, it's a good question. I've tried to be charitable to him. I know a lot of people are, kind of ruffled by him. I try not to be ruffled by people in general, and so yeah, he can. Yeah.
I don't know. That question could be for either yourself or me. I don't
Yeah.
know who they're
What
asking.
do you want to answer it or me answer it first?
You can answer it. You can answer it before.
Yeah, I think it serves the purpose of entertaining and informing some, and certainly serves as an outlet for my own, creativity. And obviously, I hope it grows. We all hope our channels grow, but I enjoy it for myself.
Yeah, we've got so we've got Kate's comics in the house as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Kate. Digital reading helps with catching up on events, checking out stories, characters, writers. I don't have to worry about the care of the comic while reading too, but collect plenty of physical to read. Yeah, that's a good way. In terms for myself, in terms of this question as well, I I try to promote like local businesses or small
Hmm.
businesses by going and filming and checking out their shops and giving them shout outs. I try and do these interviews to make people aware of other channels or like kind of humanize the people behind the camera because we're all just humans. I don't
Yeah,
know a lot of these. I think sometimes a lot of people forget like the more successful you are in this space, the least human they become to you.
sure. Yeah,
And everybody that is just the same. Like we all bleed the same color. We all have the same emotions. We all, have problems or outside of this realm. So that's my purpose. I don't
yeah,
know whether or not it helps or not, but I try to.
yeah.
Jazz,
I love
sorry,
that.
thank you. JSS Booking has found that Superman paper. Wow. JSS Booking is like Matt Murdock. He's awesome. And then the new Marvel Predator books are fire. Reminder to press that like button, please, people. We would appreciate that. Wow. The book Grail alert. I have 180, but 181 is the Grail. James Mack, I have that copy of Ironheart for you. I can post it out tomorrow. Thank you so much, buddy. I'm desperate for that book after the trailer dropped. I really appreciate it. What do you think of the new? Is it a movie or a series? Ironheart. I'm not.
I think it's going to be a Disney Plus series. Yeah.
Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I haven't. So I've read just Ironheart just a little bit in some of the recent Iron Man comics. I hadn't gotten the Marvel app yet when she was kind of first introduced, so I don't have a lot of history with the character. I thought she was a good character in the second Black Panther. Just in general, obviously, I think most people would agree Disney hasn't done the best job lately with a lot of their characters. So I'm cautious. I don't have a lot of expectation one way or the other. I hope it's good. What about you? Sounds like are you a big Ironheart fan?
No, this is a troll. This is literally a troll comment. It's he's just taking the mickey. So it's probably not something that I'd be interested in watching it. I don't think I'd be. I'll give it a go, but I don't think it'll be something. There's a lot of shows out there that I don't think really are made for me. Like
Sure.
like Miss Marvel, that seemed very like teenage girl type situation for me. I tried to watch it, I really couldn't get into it, and I kind of get the feel again with this, like
Right.
but it could be something if my daughter gets into doing stuff.
Sure.
I'd watch it with her, but I don't think it would be something that I like to watch a bit more adult stuff, but we'll see. Brian McClay is flexing here, saying he's already been on. Rob Liefeld's already been on. There we go. There we go. Was a bucket list moment for me. He was on the 3rd episode of the Industry Show, I think. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Darth Lopez has checked out. Thank you so much for watching, buddy. He'll finish on the replay. Really appreciate it. Wahoo, do you like Thundercats?
Thunderbolts. I think it's probably Thunderbolts, right?
Oh
no, maybe it's Thundercats. I just saw the thunder and then they're like Thundercats. Yeah.
Do you like?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I grew up. Yeah, I was a kid in the '80s when the Thundercats cartoon, Masters of the Universe, Transformers, where all those were at their peak, and so definitely a huge fan of those guys.
We've got Marcus Circumstances in the house. Thank you so much for watching, buddy. We appreciate you. And we've got Perry's Comics. Thank you, Perry, for joining us. Really appreciate it. Circumstances. Have you seen this like back and forth between these two? It's quite funny, to be fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Dan from Mutant Academy Gaming says, for me, James sheds light on lesser known indie shops, creators, and just shares love for cool and interesting stuff. I've had a few interactions with James over the years, and he's a genuine credit. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, honestly. That's really nice. So the next question is, it's about the comic book market.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on the comic book market? Do you take on much speculation these days, or do you think that spec is dead? Like, it was at its height probably during the pandemic but do you think it's people are laying off it a bit now because they know what kind of happens? The book booms, and then shortly before the film comes out, it drops, and then just carries on dropping.
Yeah, I mean, certainly people are feeling burned still, I think, right? And there's all kinds of studies about how our losses impact us more than our wins. They stay with us longer, and so I think there's a little bit of time for people to recover before
Yeah.
they start thinking about seriously investing in comics, perhaps again. I think still, like if you're talking about speculating, there's room to speculate. I think like on small dollar books in the hopes that
Yeah.
a movie comes out or something. Yeah, you certainly can make money still on a dollar comic all of a sudden becoming a $25 comic. But I don't think there's going to be like in the major keys. I don't see a lot of massive growth happening anytime in the near future. I think
Yeah.
if you're going to, because there's speculation and there's investment. If you're investing more thinking about the long term, I've made a series of videos, and I want to keep making them about where I see the market in 20 years. And I think there's a lot of factors that are interesting. I
Yeah.
mean,
You,
because there's a lot of
you
older
did.
collectors that are going to just pass away, and
Yeah.
then they're just like my father-in-law. Nobody knew, this book even existed, right, until just 2 years ago. And so,
Yeah.
how many Hulk 181s are just sitting
Just
out
sitting
there
out there. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
somebody's basement?
Totally agree.
And obviously, the greater the supply, the smaller the more the price is driven down. And so, I think that's going to drive things down.
You did it.
Will
I was gonna say you did a great video about like the fertility rates. Like I know you love a good
yeah,
I know you love a good graph, but you did a great
yeah.
video on that. I thought that was a really good presentation on that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so there's a combination of fewer, potential buyers for a number of reasons. One just being, people not having children. There's just the reality that you have to have children to keep, you know, you know, investments continue to go up. You have to have buyers, and so if there are fewer buyers, then prices will go down.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
It's actually
your
my most viewed video. It was really surprising. Yeah, it's my best video that's done
well, the
on. I
fertility
never
one.
would have thought the fertility rate. Yeah, by far. And
Yeah,
not
I
that I've
think
had
it's
any big videos, but it's got like 6,000 views, which for me
I,
obviously is way number one. And then I've got a couple that's gotten 3,000.
yeah,
But yeah, people were interested in that. And I used a whiteboard. I really like the whiteboard. I think people like the whiteboard. I try to use
yeah.
that some.
It's good. It's like I said earlier, like they're really informative. So that people you're gaining something from watching that video. So it's not just you're seeing somebody else pull out a comic they bought. It's literally you're actually getting some useful information.
Yeah.
Um, uh, where am I? Sorry, I've lost where I am. Is there any books or characters you think are currently undervalued?
Oh man, yeah, I'm sure there are. I mean, I guess DC books in general are a little more undervalued compared to Marvel. I don't know why. I mean, I guess the MCU obviously has
Yeah,
driven a lot of the values, and whether you personally like the MCU or the DCU better, I mean, I think objectively the MCU has done better. So there's been
yeah, yeah,
more interest driven towards those books. So if DC puts together, obviously we're going to have the reboot with Superman, like Superman's a hit, and then the James Gunn universe ends up being a massive hit, then I think, there's a good chance that those books could increase in value more quickly than the Marvel books could. I think a lot of the Marvel books already have the speculation price kind of built in to their value.
yeah,
But there's still room to grow, I think, for some DC books. But who knows? That's just my thought.
yeah. No, no, I totally agree. I think that especially DC, I think with the way that Marvel's been in the past, since 2008 with the MCU introduction, it's kind of it's overtook. But I think with the way it is at the moment, if James Gunn can get you know a working universe where characters are introduced and the story flows and it's not just I think they kind of, for me, with the last one with the Snyderverse or whatever you call it, I think they went too quickly to introduce Batman and Superman together.
Sure.
Um, kind of feel like there should have been like a Man of Steel 2, because with
Hmm.
Iron Man, he had pretty much 3 movies before he interacted
Yeah,
with the Avengers and stuff like that. So I think that's what they kind of need to learn from. Is not just put out a movie with your two biggest characters together, hoping just because they're together it's going to be a good movie.
sure. Yeah,
Um, but I hope I love DC. I think they've got some of the
yeah.
I
And
think
those
they've got
characters
some of the
are
best
iconic, right?
storylines going. But you
Yeah.
can't. Um, but I'm in a position now where I'm not actually buying Marvel or DC. Like I literally just got I don't really have a local comic shop, so I've
Hmm.
kind of like I've built like a really good relationship with a comic shop that's probably about 50 minutes away from me, and I'm just getting stuff sent to me now, and
Oh wow, yeah.
so all my stuff that I picked up is just all indie books. So it's
Hmm.
like it's the Battle Beast one that's just literally come out.
Right.
Um, it Exquisite Corpses #1, which has literally just come out. Captain Planet from Dynamite, that's just literally come out like last week, I think it was, or whenever it was. And Monsters by Mark Spears. That's the stuff that's on my that I'm basically pulling out now.
Yeah, I definitely think in general, indie books in general, I enjoy reading more. Yeah.
Yeah,
So again, my reading is mostly done digitally, and so I'm reading more digital indie books than anything. I read a lot of Marvel books online just because that's what I've always done, and I like these characters, even though sometimes it's a slog to get through. Some of the runs is just I love those characters, but I think in indie books, there's real stakes at play. For one thing, there aren't rules. Like even if Spider-Man dies, he's not really
not
going to
really dead.
die,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
and I think there's a lot. At least this is for me why I find indie books interesting, is because there really is a much higher level of unpredictability. You can have major people die at the end of the series and or during the series or whatever,
yeah, yeah,
and you can just explore different themes that maybe you wouldn't be allowed to explore from Marvel and DC corporate. So
yeah.
also helps out.
Um, we got circumstances. Marcus has said that Ryan Coogler is being on Ironheart has locked him in. I kind of feel like because he's done really well with that Sinners movie that's come out
Hmm.
recently. So I kind of feel like that's like they're kind of jumping on that to get people interested. Um, but certainly Ryan Coogler is a fantastic director. Um, I'm actually going to see Sinners tomorrow, I believe. So I'm looking forward to that.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard a lot of good hype about it.
Yep. Ironheart is 25 in the show, so hopefully the themes are a little more age related. Oh, okay, cool. She looks very young to me in the trailer, but Madame Blaster, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Mutant Academy Gaming said it's fallen off post Endgame. The groups are
Right.
way less active, and the most stuff has gone onto eBay. He's talking about Facebook. I left Facebook, I think, like very early 2022. I'm just on Instagram now. That's it. Uh,
Hmm.
any other questions? JSS Brooklyn says, please, people, please respect the chat and interact appropriately. Brian from Beyond Wednesdays has said that there are literally warehouses full of keys out there.
Yeah.
Trust me, he's seen them. Wow.
Yeah. So that's really scary. And when you're thinking about maybe putting some real money into a comic book, especially I would imagine Bronze Age and newer.
Yeah. Comic book YouTube people, or sorry, YouTube comic people, has said, are you aware that when creators sell their products on this platform, they are required to add the sponsored label? Perhaps you should make a video highlighting this violation. What? You, Wahoo or me? I anything that I've done sponsored videos before where I would always put it beforehand. Um, but I'm pretty sure. I mean, I don't know if you've got any names you're referring to. That would help out. I'm guessing. Um,
I want to be an investigative reporter sometime. Yeah, shoot me a message on Instagram if you got any names. I would love to. Yeah, get a tip on something like that if there is really a story to tell.
yeah. Sean has put MJ. Those UK variants of DC and Marvel are low key grails to me. People forget Wolverine first real appearance is in a UK comic magazine. We fight Hercules in a bar. Did you know? I've heard. Someone sent me that when that got discovered. It's like a Marvel. It almost looks like a
Is it
newspaper.
Treasury? Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's like a Treasury edition,
yeah.
maybe.
It's a yeah. It's like it's magazine size. It's a bit bigger than
Right.
normal comic, but it's like the paper quality is like that of a newspaper. The paper quality that we got as on this side of the pond wasn't great during the those years. To be fair, um, but do you believe in buying in the dip? So like now is a good time to buy.
Sure. Yeah, so when it comes to the stock market, yes. Like yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess yeah. Do y'all invest in the same index funds we do in the States? I haven't really thought about this, how global works. But like when you think of like the stock market here, at least in the US, it had a massive, yeah, it's kind of relative, but it had a big drop about a month ago.
Yeah.
And so I bought into that dip, and the stock market's rebounded, not fully, but a decent amount.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I believe in that when it comes to like the stock market buying the dip, because I believe there's more of because different, like when you're buying in the stock market, you're buying into companies that are producing actual products that have inherent value, like Amazon, Walmart. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
actually making things that people want to buy. Comics have a subjective value to them, right? Like they only matter as long as we care about them.
Yeah.
Much more, and in some sense that's true of every product, but like much more the value of the comic is just based in nostalgia and people's desire versus an actual need for the product. Like there are things on Amazon I need, and I
Yeah.
don't
Of course.
need
Yeah.
any comic books. And so, when it comes to the long-term outlook of the comic, book market, there's just so many unknowns that so it's yes and no. So if you're thinking of selling in the next 10 to 20 years, I think there could be some wisdom in buying in the market. I certainly think at some point there's going to be a new hype train, just like the MCU. I mean, the pandemic was a really special, like melting pot of like all the right factors. Yeah, the
Yeah. Of
MCU was
course. Yeah.
big. People had all the stimulus money. People were at home bored. I mean, that was a once in a lifetime thing. But I think there'll still be a time where like the market overall experiences a big rebound because of something that causes people to get hyped up about comics.
Yeah.
But 20 years from now, there are other factors that I think come into play, especially once, it's still unclear who you talk to, but how many younger collectors there really are, how many collectors there'll be. Because, I didn't actually start buying more valuable comic books until I was in my 40s, right? I didn't have the money,
Yeah.
and
Of
I was
course.
in my
Yeah.
20s. So are there 20 and 30-year-olds right now that aren't buying, those books? They don't seem to be in the market, but that's just because they're got young families, they can't afford it. But once they get to be 40 and they have a little more spending money, will they come into those markets? Because that's what
Yeah.
happened to me.
Yeah.
Or am I kind of the last generation, or I'm pretty sure you're younger than me, or kind of your age, or you kind of the bottom of the last generation of comic collectors that are putting real money into. I mean, I think there will always be somebody, but they're buying these books, but will the demand go way down 20 years? 20 years from now as people pass away? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's like You think, during the pandemic, it wasn't just comic books that boomed; it was the collectibles industry because people were
Right.
sat at home, they were feeling nostalgic, so they wanted to buy stuff that they had when they were kids, and one thing that probably is still as popular now as it ever than it probably was during the boom is Pokemon cards at the moment, just
Hmm.
absolutely insane. And obviously the comic industry is kind of cottoned on to that, you know, pack ripping is a big thing, and putting
Yeah.
comics, variant comics into packs and getting them. It's a huge thing at the moment, which we can see with. I just got one here, I think. Is it that? Have you seen these? The Battle
Nice.
Beast blind bag?
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
So I haven't opened this yet, but I mean, I could open it if you wanted me to, but
Oh,
um,
oh yeah. If you want to,
do you wanna?
get this thing. Yeah, let's pump
I'll
this
tell you
thing
what.
up.
We'll do a Wahoo Comics impression. Put a one in the chat if you want me to open this live, and I will. But yeah, that like Pokemon. I grew up collecting Pokemon cards as a kid. I can't believe it's still as pop. It's even more popular now than it ever back was when it was originally. Um, well, for me, for when kids, but yeah, I think uh, mixing the two things for me, it's kind of dangerous for me, if I'm being honest. And it is, in essence, it's gambling because you obviously don't know what you're going
Right.
to get in it. But yeah, it's something that I would enjoy though. I've actually ordered quite a few of these.
Oh, cool.
So
What's the biggest hit in them? Like, what would be
uh,
like
do you know what? I
the chase
genuinely
quote?
don't know. Because there's like these eBay live ones as well that they've got. I don't know if they're like the
Hmm.
better ones. Um, uh, but yeah, I genuinely don't know. Brian McLean might be able to answer that question because he did a show on it last week, I think, or the week before. But yeah, Beyond Wednesdays has said that YouTube comic people acting like the cops around here. How do you feel about Robert Downey Jr. being Doctor Doom?
Yeah, yeah. I'm open to it. Yeah, like I have mixed feelings. Like, is it Tony Stark being Doctor Doom, or is it just like they're capitalizing on Robert Downey Jr.? I'm
I think
not
I think it's probably I think you know how what do they call them? Is it Nexus beans or something like that? Or
right.
no, what is
Anchor
the anchor
being. You're
bean?
the anchor being of the comic book community. How do you not
Yeah, I
know?
genuinely forgot it for a second. I'm sorry. Yeah, so I think that the current Earth or whatever. What are we 316 or I don't know yeah,
Six
whatever
one
the
six.
MCU is 616.
Oh,
That's it.
the MCU. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Right. Yeah.
So if I think that our Tony Stark was like the anchor being for ours, and they're gonna try and get
Mhm.
one to replace him, but then they bring across who they think is Tony Stark, but it's actually Victor
Actually,
Von
Doom.
Doom. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe
It's
something
been
like
explored in a couple of alternate, universe storylines in the comics. This idea that Tony Stark becomes Doom. I mean, I really loved when in the comics Doom became Iron Man for a short time. So I'm
that.
very open to it because that's always like, you mentioned loving anti-heroes, and I love anti-heroes, but even more than it's kind of related, but redemption stories. So
Yeah,
when I see someone like Doom who is evil, who finds at least some level of redemption, like obviously he's still not a Boy Scout, so to
yeah,
speak,
yeah.
but I really enjoy seeing characters uh, find the good in them, and that's always that's cool to
Yeah.
me. And so I would love to see if something like that happened.
No, yeah, 100%. I love those redemption arcs and stories. They're one of my
Yeah.
favorites. We've got Snape in the house. Thank you for so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Razor Comics has got a question for you, Michael. When's the next Wahoo community drama video coming out? And most importantly, will I be included? I as in
100%. If
Razor.
you, yeah, Razor, yeah, 100% Razor. If you stir some drama up, I'm always waiting to see what's going. This is. I think we might talk about this at some point, but like it's
Yeah.
always hard to know what things to make parodies of because I always want it to be funny, and obviously all the things I make parodies of, people are some emotions are involved. And so there are a few things that I've thought about making a parody of, and I've said, well, I think people could get like this. Yeah, I'm not. I don't want to hurt. I don't want to hurt somebody. Razor says, "Don't say less." Yeah, so I'm always looking for a good parody video to do.
Yeah. Like I said, I thought you were going to do one the other week for that Niobe thing on Darth's channel, but
Yeah, I've thought about it. A couple of them like the parody videos will kind of collect a few different live streams together and weave them into one live stream. Like the last one I did was on that Mighty live stream that obviously
yeah,
you were a part of, but it
yeah,
tied into some of the lore from other drama that had happened in the last
yeah,
few weeks. So whenever there's the next big thing, uh, yeah, it'll probably tie in some lore from other characters too, or other live streams.
yeah, that'd be good. What are your thoughts on new comics selling out instantly due to the collector's market? I just missed out this week on Battle Beast 1, unfortunately. Are you on about the blind bags? Or is it which issue? Yeah, any thoughts?
Man, it's a shame. I don't. Yeah, it's hard to know. I mean, I understand, both sides of that equation,
Mm.
but I do feel really bad for someone who just is a regular customer who wants a book and comes in and they're all gone because somebody came in and just bought everything out. And I don't know if this is mostly online buying or in person buying. Like I said, I don't buy a lot of new comic books, so I have, I read them digitally. So this doesn't affect me. But if there's someone who's a regular customer and they miss out on a book because somebody
Yeah,
just
yeah,
swooped in. I think that's a shame. I don't know the solution to that because comic shops, if they order too much, then they're screwed with not being left over with all this product. If they
yeah,
don't order enough, they have dissatisfied customers, and so I have compassion for people on both sides, but I do feel bad for somebody who's a regular customer and can't get the book they want.
yeah, 100%. So we're kind of like you mentioned it a few times now, and about your parody videos. What inspired you, Michael, to do your parody videos on the comic book community?
Yeah, so there's a few things. The very first one was based on the infamous Comic Tom Sticky Goose live stream. And I was just shocked by the reaction of the community to that live stream and how intense people were. And I've talked about this a little bit in my videos before.
Yeah,
People always form a religious devotion to something. And there are people who have like a religious devotion to this hobby. And Sticky Goose, he's like, for people who have that level of devotion, to some, he's the Messiah, and to others, he's the Antichrist.
yeah,
And it's just like in his comments, there are people who are like, "You're the greatest thing ever." And yeah, I think Sticky says a lot of interesting things. Some I agree with, some I don't agree with. But the level of emotion people have towards him in either direction is just really surprising to me. And after that live stream, I think everybody would agree. And I think Sticky himself, I think, would agree with this, that Tom certainly ended up looking better, winning
yeah,
the debate or whatever it might be. Uh, but this is on the back of Sticky having a very successful year. Again, whether you liked his videos or not, I mean, it was successful
yeah,
year. But people are like, haha, I told you were like, yeah, like these really just vicious comments towards him that I thought were just, yeah, the level, like you said this earlier, yeah, James Mack, you know, like we're all just people. I really appreciate what you said. One of the reasons you want to do this is to humanize us.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all, whether it's Sticky or whether it's Comic Tom, whether it's you, whether it's me, whether it's, you know, Razor, Dorothy, some of these other people I've had in my opinion, we're all just people, and we
Yeah.
all can get heated at things and upset. But the level that some people, especially people who aren't like involved in the situation, the level of emotion they can have, in my opinion, can cross a level of like just being. This is a negative. I'm not trying to say this in a, but like it's absurd, really.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I wanted to make something that was absurd to kind of say, hey, this is absurd, you know,
Yeah.
and I've really appreciated your comments on some of them. Yeah, that it's really important to learn to laugh at ourselves.
Oh, of course.
Like
Yeah.
this life is just way too short to get emotionally involved. And whether Sticky got beat by Comic Tom in that live stream, in my opinion, or
Yeah.
whatever issue, whether you collect raw books or slab, I mean, that's another thing. Like, it's just wild to me how passionate some people are. That whatever issue it is, you know, yeah, if you slab your comics, you're the worst person, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so I kind of would just, you know, again, just point out, hey, this isn't this big of a deal. Let's all laugh at each other. That was the first reason I did it. You know, like jesters, yeah, actually served a really important role in the old days, because they, and even today, I mean, Dave Chappelle is a good example. He's basically a jester, and
Yeah.
he says some things that are like the regular politician couldn't say, you know, because through comedy, somehow like people more accepting of ideas. And so I, especially, you know, Razor's obviously asking this question, you know, like that, you know, one of the things I think I really appreciate, Razor, you know, like your, you know, how you've received my videos. But one of the first ones I did, the second one I did was like on the whole Taco Bell incident. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, oh, I'm going to put this out.
You're scared to
I'm
put
going
it
to get
out, were you?
blasted by Razor. I was terrified. Thank God he took it the right way. Yeah. And that it was all meant to be out of love, all meant to be out of a tribute to these people who have entertained me. And to try to say, all right, this is a situation that is uncomfortable, that people are really emotional about,
Yeah.
and trying to release the tension some. Yeah, that's my purpose. And I think with one exception, there's, you know, one person who did take a little of offense to one of the things I did in one of the videos, and I do feel really, that was not my intention.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to like, all right, let's breathe a little bit, let's laugh a little bit, but then, so that's my intention. But then, like, I've been surprised how much I just personally enjoy the creative process of like making these videos. Like, because I'll have an idea that, yeah, something, obviously it's always in the piggyback of something big happened, Comic Tom and, you know, Sticky being the first one, and then yeah, so like that'll happen like on a Saturday, and then Monday I'm like, all right, let's do this. And then like through the week, just these new ideas keep coming into my head. So thinking of like the last one on the Mighty live stream. So I realized early on, okay, I want to do something. And then one of the things I wanted to highlight was the conflict, you know, Darth and Sticky have had for months now.
Yep.
And Darth obviously talks about battle content and fighting. And so I was like, well, we can have this, you know, battle between them. And I was in the middle of watching Cobra Kai, the TV show. I grew up on the Karate Kid. Like,
Yeah.
well, Daniel's, you know, named, it's the same name as the Karate Kid kid. Oh, so let me do this Karate Kid thing with Daniel. And then it's like Daniel, and then like, oh, Mr. Miyagi, there could be a Mr. Miyagoose. That came like a day later. And then I started thinking, well, one of the big parts of the training is that, you know, Daniel had to paint the fence. Oh, well, Sticky's just been talking about a month ago how he's going to have to paint the wall because of the comic capsules. And so let me tie out, and like just energized by that creative process, and and trying to make smart comedy. And there's all kinds of like little Easter eggs that maybe nobody recognizes except for me, but I get a lot
What
of pleasure out of it. So I'll say this one. I'm curious if you recognize this. So on that Mighty live stream, Sticky, I'm pretty sure intentionally mislabeled Lawrence as
they called
Clarence.
him Clarence, yeah. Why did he
Clarence.
call him
It's
Clarence?
I think just to like, because I think it's just a disrespect to miss get somebody's name. And so in my parody video, everybody called Lawrence Clarence except for you. You were the only one who called him Lawrence because you're the nicest guy in the comic community. And so you were the only one who cared enough to make sure you got his name right.
Oh
And
wow.
like those are the types of things that probably nobody caught on to that.
Mate, it
But
goes
like
deeper
I
than,
just
you
know
know.
it's smart to me, and so yeah, I enjoy it.
But it's like you say, like in terms of you know, you worried that the if you put a video like that out there, you're worried about a specific reaction from
Yeah.
certain people, like, you know, it you know, like you said there from Razor. I- is it sometimes you think that you might be hitting a bit too close from home or something like that?
I've tried to stay away from that. And it's tough. Yeah, comedy's tough, when you're trying to do that. Yeah, because you are poking the bear. I really appreciate, Razor EFAP'd one of the videos that I did. And he had a guy, I don't know this guy, but Matt from Heroes, I think it's Heroes for Hire is the channel. And I
Yeah.
was watching Razor EFAP it, and he said something that like made me so proud. He's like, because the video we're talking about is, it's Razor and Sticky and all this, kind of stuff. He said, you can't tell which side I was on. And that's really important to me, that it doesn't come across that I'm like trying to take sides, but
Yeah.
I'm exposing, or exposing might be the wrong word, but trying to highlight funny things about everybody. And hey, let's all laugh. Here's some things about James Mack, who, is just this innocent bystander, like, here's some funny things about Sticky. Here's some funny things about Darth. And I never want to, I hope nobody actually knows what I think about the actual situation.
Oh right.
And that was one of the greatest highlights for me. Somebody watching my video and saying they couldn't tell whose side I was actually on. And in real, obviously, I'm not trying to be on any side. I want to
Yeah.
love it. I love Razor. I love Darth. I love Sticky. I love you. I mean, obviously, I don't really know you.
Yeah.
Love you as much as you can. Somebody on the other side of a screen, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to, uh, be kind. But it's hard, sometimes, you never know how, because we all have egos, and, you can say something that you're not trying to step on anybody's toes, and it does.
Yeah. I've got to ask a question. What was there was at the end, did you like the montage that I did for you?
Oh yeah, it was great. Yeah, I loved
Yeah.
it.
So at the end of that, it was the gem mint one, and
Yeah,
it was obviously that referring to that thing with the comic caps on the wall.
yeah.
But what was the corn? Was that just a random
Yeah.
picture?
No. So it's another. Yeah. I'm wondering
Is
who
that
who
another
all gets
Easter
this. And
egg?
I tried to hint into it. So when Sticky turned on Jim Mint, one
Yeah.
of the things he pointed to is that after he got booted from comics, when things went off on Comic Tom's live stream that they were doing, Jim Mint put in the chat,
Oh, it's
put up,
corn. I know what
and
it
I
is.
don't know if you know this, but on live streams, people will say corn to
Yes.
avoid getting demonetized or the algorithm
Ah.
burying them. And so I had this idea of, oh, Jim Mint wants to show everybody, you know, the corn. And so I tied in that Jim Mint sticky corn issue with the comic capsules. And again, it's one of those things like, will anybody even get what this is supposed to be about?
Well, to be fair, when I watched it originally, it just completely went through my head. But it wasn't until I was editing that montage video, I was thinking, "What is this piece of corn?" I thought And it's beautifully drawn as well. I was like, what is it? Just a random piece of drawing, you know? And to be fair, even your comic Tom Crashdown,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that was the, you know, that was a pretty good quick knock up, I think, as well.
I appreciate it 'cause I actually drew that. I generally consider myself a terrible artist. And I was like, oh, this actually doesn't look too bad. It's maybe the best artwork I've ever done.
Oh wow. No, but they're genuinely funny. You get a you get a good response like from the community, I think. And it's just a shame that stuff like that where you put so much hard work into um is that you? Is that sound coming from you or is it
I
from
was
me?
going to say, guys, can you hear that? Yeah, I think one of my kids set an alarm that, let me
Oh, okay.
shut that down. Give me
I'll
just two
keep
seconds.
that's right. But yeah, so what one of the things about the parody videos for me is that um they don't get enough views, and I kind of feel like the effort and the amount of work that you put into it, like, and how genuinely funny they are, they should get a lot more views than they're getting.
Yeah, I feel that way too. Yeah, I feel they're good, and it's just I think I try to think of why they don't, and I think there's a for those who don't know how the YouTube algorithm works, the first thing YouTube does is like spit your video out to your normal subscribers, and then if it works well with your normal subscribers, then it starts going progressively to larger audiences.
Yeah,
Well, I think you know, my subscriber base is mostly people my age and older
yeah,
who mostly found mostly subscribed to me through some of my comic finance videos. Uh, and I think most of them don't care about, drama. And so they just see, what is this dude doing in this, wig on this thumbnail, and just don't click. And so then YouTube doesn't just thinks it's a bad video.
yeah, yeah,
And it's one of the hard things again was I think we talked about this earlier. Uh, like I really want to do new things, and I've
yeah,
got lots of ideas, but because I want to grow my audience. But then if my current subscribers don't like those new things, because I've been doing these old things, it's just hard to figure out how to figure out the algorithm with that. And so I don't know, something I'm very bad at doing in general is like networking and figuring out ideas. I know, again, I keep referring to this live stream you did with Mighty because a lot of things he said resonated with me, or that you guys said together. Like, I want to take things to the next level and all that type of stuff. And, and probably I should be bouncing ideas off of people, more
yeah,
than I do. I know Darth Lopez always talks about he's got a whisper cell, of people I know that he's got a whole team of people that certainly helped him on his live
yeah, yeah,
stream and his
yeah,
thumbnails and stuff like that. And I've never done that. And part of that is, I think, being Southern. I think this is part of, like, I really relate a lot to Sticky. I feel I'm, because he's from West. We're on different side of the Appalachians, but there's a lot of similarities in our culture.
yeah,
And I think it's clear that he works best on his own. That he doesn't really work that great with others, and then when he does, like it just doesn't end up well. And so I think there's a lot of cultural reasons for that. I'm guessing. I don't know him at all, but I'm just guessing, just knowing the culture that I've come from, that is at least somewhat similar to West Virginia culture. Um, like it's not natural for me to do group projects. Like there's a meme I love, like at my funeral, I want everybody who did a group project with me to be there so they can let me down one more time. I don't know if you've ever heard that joke.
no,
And I'm, yeah, it's just, but I feel like that's like something probably necessary to, get to the next level of producing content. But I don't know, like it's one of these things again, like it's just a big question I'm always going to my head. How much do I want to really go all in? yeah, because it's always opportunity cost, right? Like every hour on YouTube is an hour away from whether it's my family or a lot of other things that I have
Yeah.
interest in, and so it's hard to know.
I think JSS Booking has said that comparing a YouTuber to our Lord and Savior is a bit off-putting. It's not about Sticky Goose.
Yes.
Uh, no, he goes. Shauna
Yeah,
says
I
that was
don't agree with that, but some do, I think. Yeah.
that's a super funny live. All the old creeps came out in that live stream as well. Troll City turned into. Well
Yeah.
said, Wahoo. It looked like there's something going on. I might be a bit past it. So I think somebody time mm, circumstance out or something. I don't know. I
It's
can't
hard to
see it.
see. I think maybe there was some language earlier on where him
Yeah,
appearing,
I
maybe. I'm
it
guessing
doesn't
maybe that happened.
it doesn't
But I'm
show
not
us
sure.
the block stuff on here, but
Yeah.
uh, Michael is right. Sticky Goose is hugely polarizing, and how invested people get is wild. 100% agree. He no matter what people think of him, he does. His aim is to entertain, and he does. He does what he
Yeah.
sets out to do. Um, it's all love and comedy. Great sketch. The mighty stream was crazy. James was in shock. I think I loved your impression of him with his little glasses and his cup of tea. That was brilliant. That was
Dude, oh man, my heart was beating just watching it, just watching you. It was, oh man,
no,
my
it's all right.
goodness.
It's okay. I
Yeah.
kind of so Mighty messaged me um shortly before it went live, and he sent me the link. And he, and I was like, what? I was like, grievances. What's this thing? What's this show about? And he goes, oh, just so I'm trying. Or I can't remember what he exactly said. And then I said, oh, if I get time, I'll jump on. And I said to Gemma, Lawrence is going live, and like the last time he's invited me a few times when he's gone live, and I've never been
Yeah.
able to do it because of the time difference. And because it was like at 6 o'clock for me or something like that, or 7 o'clock or whatever. I was like, I
Yeah.
can do it. I'll just jump on. And then he messaged me to say, I've invited Sticky Goose. And and I thought, there's no way Sticky Goose is going on that
Sure.
show. There's no way Sticky Goose going on that show. And then when I thought, oh, it's not it's Darth Lopez. I've never interacted with Darth before on a live because
Hmm.
Darth was on there. So I joined, but you can't see who's backstage.
Sure.
So I was sitting backstage waiting to go on, and then when he introduced me, and then he went, "Oh, we've got Daniel Sticky," I was like, I genuinely didn't think that was even going to happen.
Yeah. Oh
But then when it
man.
just went off the way it did, I was just like, I genuinely didn't know what to do. Um,
Sure. You handled it like you handled it as good as you could, and tried to shift the conversation, and then yeah, they weren't having it.
yeah,
Obviously, yeah, yeah.
and
You,
it's
you
so
handled it.
funny.
You handled it like a pro.
It's so funny because it's exactly like how you put it in that video. Because it's like I'm just trying to take it, talk about some comic books while because I genuinely feel like after all this stuff with Sticky Goose, I kind of felt sorry. I always my problem for me is I kind of like I always like I feel bad, and I after everything that happened with Tom and Sticky Goose and stuff like that, and the way that he can't quit YouTube but then came back. I thought that I thought he genuinely just hated comic books, and
Yeah.
you know and I didn't want him to not, because this is ultimately, I'm on YouTube because I love comic books. I'm not on YouTube
Sure.
because I love you know um well, I kind of do love interacting with the community now. I like that aspect to it and stuff like that. But I'm here because of comic books, and I didn't want him to go away hating comic books because of what happened on a live stream.
Yeah.
You know, I felt bad for him in that sense.
Yeah.
Um, but like you're the cornerstone of the comic. Your impressions were so funny. Honestly, they were great. It was even the mannerisms of like the way you move. Like even the one of Razor was really good with drinking, and you know
Yeah.
It's so funny, buddy. Honestly,
I
it's
appreciate
really good.
that.
Um,
Yeah. And those are the types of things. Obviously, I hope those parody videos get more views at some point. But we were talking about earlier, like what keeps me going. Like when I hear someone who really appreciates what I did, then that's an awesome feeling. I would
yeah,
definitely rather have fewer people watching, but they really, truly do appreciate what I'm doing than, just a bunch of people, but they're just not paying, that close of attention. Um, Obviously, the sweet spot is lots of people who really care, but what really
yeah.
keeps me energized is the people who do appreciate it. And so obviously, I really thanks for your kind words.
No, and it's honestly they're really good. We got JSS Booking is saying that Jem Mint and Comic Tom are very good people. I mean, I have a great relationship with both of them. They're really good guys. Can you can never bully anyone on YouTube. It never ages well, no matter the time. The line Sticky Goose made video today talking about how he went wrong on YouTube and starting over again. Oh, okay. So he's put out a video today.
Yeah, I saw
Um,
the thumbnail. I haven't watched it because we were gonna. It came out right just before we went on, but I saw it's like about his 5 years on YouTube. So I guess that's going to be
oh, okay. It'd be
a big
interesting.
part of
Watch
it. So
that.
I'll
Check
be
it out.
for sure.
Um, Collaboration is essential in this day and age. Look at the comedian circuit, always guessing on each other's pods. A rising tide raises all ships. That is definitely true, Daniel. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. Honestly, MJ and Wahoo, Sticky Goose was my first comic YouTube channel. I sub to honestly become I had just started collecting and watch him is why I like comics. That crazy guy. Cool. No, but no. If you ever, uh, if something happens that you're not aware of, do you want anyone to reach out to you that might interest you? Like, because obviously you can't. The comic book YouTube's so big, you can't watch every live stream, or do you know what I mean? Someone's got to.
Sure.
Have you got someone like that in your in? I know you said you speak very frequently
Like I
to.
bounce ideas off of.
Yeah,
No, yeah. So Darth would be is the person I talk to the most,
yeah.
but it's like once or twice a week we'll send like a quick message. He'll just say nice video or something like that. Nothing
He's a good guy.
big. Yeah, I've really appreciated it. Yeah, he's been really encouraging to me. Obviously, we've exchanged a couple of messages. I don't know if there's a small Jacob Comics. I don't know if you've ever seen any of his stuff. Um, we've exchanged a number of messages with each other, and then a couple other guys that we comment on each other videos. But I've never, it's one of the things. Again, this is like I get envious sometimes. Like when I see, like Darth, let's take Darth and his whisper cell. I
Yeah,
see there is a real camaraderie there.
yeah, yeah.
And I really think that's something special. And I would imagine if I asked Darth, hey, can I be a part of your whisper cell or whatever? Yeah. Or at least some larger group that he's connected into. I know circumstances sometimes talk about being a Discord that's open to everyone. Like I think that those avenues are available,
Yeah,
but it's just also like it's just a real question of trying to be careful with my time.
yeah. Of course,
And
yeah,
it's such a hard thing, like because like I said, I'm just an all-in person, so I get easily like obsessed with things. So I could see myself getting more into the community, but
yeah,
then like that taking over, taking time away from other things that shouldn't be taken away from. And so it's really tough because I really do want to excel. I really do want to get bigger, but there's obviously it just takes an investment to do that.
yeah. No,
And man, I'm torn. What about you? How much? Because obviously you interview a number of people.
yeah.
Do you? Yeah, is it more of like just kind of one and done things, or are there people that you regularly bounce ideas off of?
Um, it's a strange thing really, because like with me being in the UK, I kind of feel like
Mm.
the majority of my views come from the US, like 100%. It used to be mostly in the UK, but then I think maybe like a year or so ago, it changed. It's like, I think ultimately a lot of my audience is in the US. I speak probably the most to like, um, yeah, like I speak probably most to Gem Mint. Um,
Hmm.
uh, but yeah, I mean, I did have a good relationship with uh, Sticky Goose. You know, like 6 or 7 months ago.
Yeah.
That obviously changed um, when I did that the second interview when I had him with Comic Journey, and I kind of
Well, I'll say something to that. That's an example. I thought of making a video about that, a parody video,
yeah.
but I was afraid you in particular were hurt by that. Like, and when I didn't want to do anything that would actually, and I don't know how you felt. And I obviously don't want to reach out. Hey, do you mind if I make a parody video of this?
No, yeah,
But
yeah.
I
No, it's
felt like
fine.
it could
Fine.
have been too raw for you
Yeah, yeah.
at the
I
moment,
To be
because
fair, I
I haven't been, like I said, like I don't understand why people get invested. Like Sticky Goose, I agree with them in some things and don't agree on a lot of things, but I've never been emotional about them except for that. Like I did feel a real sorrow for you. Yeah, the one Jim. Yeah, where you came on. Yeah, yeah. So
yeah, so
anyway,
I've never this is probably the first time I've talked about it since, but it's it's one of those things where I it's hard to explain, but for me it kind of felt like I that show wasn't about trying to exploit Sticky or have him on for the views or anything
yeah,
like that. I was, genuinely, I thought I had a good relationship with the guy. Um, and I wanted people to see how much it affected in that thing with Tom. I
right,
have so much respect for Tom as well. I'm kind of
sure,
like, and I wanted him to come on, and it was a strange one because he agreed to come on, and he kind of felt like I don't know why he wanted to dress up the way he did and act the way he did. He
yeah,
did that night, and it was just a shame because it was at that point where the person that I thought that I knew, who that I was interacting with outside of YouTube,
yeah.
he the lines became very blurred with who Daniel was and Sticky was for me.
Yeah, yeah. You can, yeah. I don't want to get too much on all this, obviously, but like, Darth talks a lot about things being kayfabe, and like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
being like this is just a wrestling character, right? Like whatever Hulk Hogan says on TV, that's just a character. And and so I thought all these things. Sticky Goose was just a character. That was an area where it was blurred lines and where I felt like, yeah, just I was sad, and obviously Sticky was in a, I mean, I think he's an emotional guy,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I think he is as
And
well.
so I think has some ups and downs. And like I said, I mean, people both worship him and hate him. And so with that, I think comes a lot of emotional ups and downs. And for whatever reason, that was a down day for him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I felt, because what was so sad in the aftermath of the Comic Tom, again, just on an outside observer looking in, and I in my parody video of that live stream, I had you like throwing the towel, like you were the
yeah,
one
yeah,
guy I saw in
yeah,
comments like defending Sticky, in a couple of places. Like I think on the one where Suddenly Comics, Sticky and Suddenly Comics, the older guy had like a back and forth, and I think it was there that you had commented on some like, yeah, the Daniel, is different, than all this, and I felt
yeah,
like you
yeah.
were so loyal to a guy when others weren't, and then I felt like, yeah, you weren't reward. It wasn't reciprocal. And that was what was disheartening. Yeah.
Yeah.
There.
No, and you know, I mean, I've had conversations with him since, you know, and I've wished him all the best. I don't hold
Yeah.
anything against him or anything like that. I would
Yeah.
never dream of holding any grudge or anything like that. I wish him and his family all the best. I know
Yeah.
I found out he's having another child, so I wish him
Yeah.
the best. But that's the that's pretty much the end of it, really. Like, but yeah, it's like you say, you want to find a relationship or a collaboration or people that on this platform that you can talk to. Like we've got Pete from Triple G Comics. He's from the UK. I've known him for a number of years now. He's a great guy. And I've been on his channel. He's been on mine as well. So he's a really good guy. Thanks for joining us, Pete. But yeah, so after that little,
Detour.
detour, the next question I have for you, Michael, is what are your goals for Wahoo Comics?
Yeah, man. That is such a good question. I mean, obviously, I think there's a desire for all of us to grow our audience, right?
Yep.
And I would like to grow my audience with the things that I especially enjoy talking about. And so, as I mentioned, that's more talking about broader ideas and how comics can help us think about them, whether it's like, uh, you know, how we think about our financial, situation, how we think about ethics. I hope there's a market for that, because really that's also part of the thing you have to think of as a creator. If you want to grow, you have to ask, well, what does the community want to hear? Like,
Yeah.
if you're just saying things you want to talk about and nobody wants to talk about them, well, you're not going to grow. And so I would like to grow in a way that interests people, that's engaging, that's hopefully continued to be funny,
Yeah.
that gets people to think. So like I said, I mean, I read comics a lot. I enjoy comics, but life is so much more than comics also.
Yeah.
And so I want to not simply just talk about this hobby, but broader picture things as well. If again, there's a market for that in this space.
Yeah. Is there any room for like any Wahoo live streams or interviews or anything like that?
Yeah, I really would like. Yeah, so that's something I want to do. Also,
Yeah.
like I really enjoy this format. It's again like finding the time to do it, and also I've got to learn the just logistics of how to do something like this. It's one thing just to film myself doing something, but just how to use StreamYard and highlight things. I did one kind of spontaneous live stream. Darth was there, Shauna was there. Just put it up just to kind of practice.
Yeah.
And I learned a few things there. But that's just, again, like you can just go on YouTube live and just hit go live,
Yeah.
versus using some secondary platform like what you're using here with Restream.
Yeah.
And so I've got to learn and I've got to find some so anyway, I would like to I really like this format and would like to do this.
And just we're nearly approaching. We're 5 minutes away from the 2 hour mark. But in terms of a legacy on the comic book YouTube community, what would you want Wahoo Comics to be remembered for?
Wow, man, this is such a good. You usually ask people that question. That's a great question. Well, entertaining, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Educational. Like I want someone to come away from my videos saying I couldn't have gotten that from another YouTuber. Like that's why I'm personally not that interested in making haul videos, even though I do sometimes, just because I know that's what people like to watch. Like if people are interested in seeing a haul, there's lots of people that are doing that very well. But I want, going back to, like, I did a video on the fertility rate, how that affects the comic book. I don't think anybody in this space has made a video on the fertility rate and how that's going to affect the comic market. I could be wrong. If it has, it's not many. But that's I want people to say, wow, he talked about something I've never heard somebody talk about. And that's my goal, you know, really with every video, to try to do that on some level. But that's this type of stuff that interests me. Like, I want to look at, so like some of my favorite, you know, people when it comes to YouTube are people who kind of ask these bigger picture ideas. This is one of the reasons I do find a lot of Sticky Goose videos interesting, because I think he brings up topics sometimes at least that nobody else is talking about, like comic book investments, Swagahos, all of them tie into sometimes these bigger issues that for me are personally fun to watch, and so I want to make that kind of content.
That's cool. Pete from Triple G Comics says, James, open invite to hop on tomorrow's blind bag opening video if you're free. I've got 20. Wow. And I will be giving away duplicates. Let me know if you fancy it. I'm actually on, it's date night tomorrow with me and Gemma. So if we get back in time and you're still going, I'll jump on, buddy. But I'm ever so sorry. I wish I could come on, but I can't. But by the end of the stream, I will open this pack. But one last question for you.
Yep.
Michael. Can you give us your 3 top most watched YouTube channels in the comic book community?
Yeah, that I watch?
Yeah, that you watch.
Yeah. I probably, Darth's channel. And then I other than Darth, I'm going to list 3 that aren't just friends, because, you know, there's a couple of friends I have where we just watch each other's video, and I enjoy those. So there's a few people in that category, but of people that I would just watch without any kind of personal connection to them. So 2 more. So comic book investments, certainly. And then probably Sticky Goose. And half of that is to watch the comments. I really enjoy the comments also. So those are the 3 that I watch the most.
Those good choices. Good choices. So that's the end of our interview. But what I will do before we go, Michael, if you don't mind, I'll open this blind.
Let's do it.
See what's in there. Pete, if you can help me in the chat, do you know what's the best one to get? And because if I get it, I obviously want to know what it is. But yeah, but this came out on Wednesday. Do you know much about the Invincible comics? You watched the show, or?
I've watched a little bit of the show, and I read the whole series.
Oh wow! So you were
years ago before the show came out. Yeah, it's incredible. Love it.
What do you make of the comic?
Yeah, it is awesome. You know, one of my favorite comics. You know, this is again where there were libraries I'd go to. This is before I started reading digitally. But I would just go to the library and check out trades, and couldn't wait till the next one came out so I could finally see the next storyline. But it was wonderful. Yeah, I really enjoy it. There's kind of we're going back to Superman, kind of these like spin on the Superman story, because that's what it is, right? With Omni-Man, or you had the Plutonian and Irredeemable. Is that the name of that series? Obviously, Homelander and the boys. So all those are kind of interesting, and so I enjoyed Invincible. Yeah,
it's good. It's I've only watched the show. I haven't read the comics, but I've fallen in love with the show. I think it's incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll open this then. So I'll just make myself big for 1 second, Michael. So I'll cut it open.
I hope you get the big hit, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think I've got 10 more coming tomorrow. To be fair.
Oh wow!
So
the idea, I've seen people talking about this, but not. So these are just like, it's like a random grab bag of comics, right? That are somewhat tied to Invincible.
Yeah, so I think there's the ones that I've seen is that there's like You can get like an advance issue of issue 2 in there. So you get
Okay.
it before issue 2 comes out. There's like a couple of gold foil reprints of like Invincible keys, and then there's like all different variants of the comic. So let's see what we get. Gosh. Hold on. It's not coming out that corner. Hold on.
Damage the big key, right?
Yeah. Is it upside down or is it?
It is. I think you do have it upside down.
This is what I got.
That's beautiful.
It is nice, isn't it? To be fair. So I don't know what I don't genuinely. Pete, is that any good? I don't know if Pete's still watching, hopefully. But yeah, that's what I've got. I'll post it on Instagram.
And is it just one? Does each one just have one random one?
Just one, yeah, one comic.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's a beautiful book.
But I'm definitely going to read this. Oh, actually, hold on. This is cover G this is John Boy Mayers. So
yeah, it's gorgeous.
That's what you can get on the back. The different.
Cool. Yeah.
So that's nice. That's, to be fair, it's a gorgeous cover. Really cool with that. Really happy with that. Cool. But no, thank you everybody for watching. Michael, you have been an absolutely fantastic guest.
Thanks,
if you guys haven't already, yes, it's a foil raiser. If you haven't already, please go and check out his fantastic channel. He does some amazing content, and it's criminal to me that some of your videos haven't taken off the way they really should. But you've been fantastic, and I wish you all the best for the future. And you're welcome back anytime, buddy. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, man. A great time. I really appreciate it. And thanks for everyone in the chat. I really appreciate the questions.
Yeah, they've been great. Chat's been fantastic as always. Really appreciate you all. And we will see you guys next time. Take care. Bye-bye.